Hey, it's Ingrid, and I'm here with Dan Moxon. How's it going today?
Oh, it's going great. Yeah, thanks for the interview.
Are you excited for the show?
I am excited. Yeah, this it's been a long time coming putting out a solo record, so it's kind of you know, it's a nice to do a hometown actual album release show and have vinyl ready to go and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So yeah, how'd this solo project get started? Because a lot of people know you from Ben Sinister, and you guys have been doing that for like ever, and then all of a sudden you kind of just popped up doing some solo stuff.
Yeah, well, every time I thought about doing a solo record over the years, we ended up getting busy with something Ben Sinister wise or putting our energy into recording a new Ben Sinister record. And then finally, we kind of had just released Foolish Games, and I had a bit of time. And it was actually JP Maurice, who's our keyboard player in Ben Sinister, who works out of this studio called Blue Light Studios. And he was like pushing me. He's like, "Oh man, come on, book like a week at my studio, and I'll like record your solo stuff. Let's like make it happen." And he kind of inspired me, and I was like, oh, maybe I will do it, because I have a bunch of songs that I've collected over 15 years practically, and I've just never actually spent the money and the time to record everything properly. So we ended up going into the studio, and I kind of booked it in and then worked backwards from there and sort of planned. It was 3 or 4 months away, and so I did a bunch of writing of new material and wrote about 6 or 7 new songs, and then I had about 6 or 7 old songs, and then we just went in and did them all, and started with a week in the studio and then ended up taking way longer than that. But yeah, or that's it.
So yeah, like how do you make sure that songs are different from Ben Sinister, or do you kind of like, are they extra songs from Ben Sinister? Or?
I'm not really worried about that. I mean, I guess in the sense of the production side of the record, I was going to do it differently, a little bit more low key, and use different instruments and different the biggest difference is that there's 0 guitars. There's not a single guitar on the record. It's all piano and vocals and drum, still drums and bass, but I mean, even if it did sound like Ben Sinister, that's fine, because that's been my main musical project. It's like can't help but sound like the songs you write. So
let's talk about the new album. It's called Lounge Singer,
yes.
which I'm told is because you used to be a lounge singer.
Very occasionally I would do the Shore, which was a radio station in town for a while, would put on these Friday nights at the Fairmont, and they'd bring in sort of, bigger artists versus just the typical sort of people that do play there all the time on Mondays or Tuesdays. They would kind of make special Friday nights and so I went and I started doing that once every few months, because they were really fun, sort of, whatever Friday night shows on a white grand piano, and you could go in and I'd play it with a trio, and I just started sort of playing as a lounge singer, I guess, and it was, where I really kind of workshopped a lot of the songs that were the older ones from the record, and played them in front of crowds and got dance floors going, and it was always kind of very rich people who would, tip you $50 to play Elton John, and a kind of a funny crowd, but it was, yeah, so I mean, in a way, I called it lounge singer based on that fact, but it was also, I thought it kind of had this double meaning for me, because when I think about how difficult it is to actually get somebody to listen to your record or listen to a song nowadays, it made me think of that sort of everybody being a lounge singer in a way, every artist, when you're like putting your music online and on the internet and hoping that people listen to it, and then maybe they put it on in a Discover Weekly playlist while they're talking to their friends, and really it's like everybody's just, it's hard to get people's attention, and so it had that sort of duality meaning in a way where everybody is a lounge singer sort of struggling to make people care.
So on that note, I noticed that your album is on Spotify, which is kind of, the whole streaming taking away from listening to albums. So like, how do you feel about putting your music on Spotify and things like that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Spotify, if you want to be current and relevant, you have to embrace what technologies are out there to have people listen to your music. I mean, I could like complain that, oh, I'm not making money from people, buying a record, but would you rather have, 200 people in Vancouver buy your, album on vinyl, or would you rather have 20,000 people around the world listen to it on a playlist, And I mean, the thing about Spotify is that you can really reach these massive new audiences if you get put on these sort of editorial playlists and things, which, you have to sort of work the system and play the game to do that. But when you do, I mean, if a playlist has 200,000 followers, in a way that means that you're potentially going to have your song on that playlist listened to 200,000 times, and that really jumps you ahead of the game. And if somebody cares enough and the music speaks for itself loud enough, then hopefully they follow you and listen to the rest of the record and then come to a show. And that's really what it's all about these days, is just trying to get people to listen in the first place, and then if they like it, come to a show. So
yeah, speaking of shows, I saw you played So Far Sound. Super cool. Yeah, I just attended mine like a few weeks ago, but
yeah, I've done a bunch of them over the summer. Ben Sinister did one in February, and that was the first time I'd ever kind of done one of their shows, and I really sort of fell in love with the format of just, people not have no concept of who's coming or who's playing, and you just get to show up and be exposed to 3 new bands, but it's a constant, like, full and passive and interested audience, so every time you get to do a So Far Sounds, you're playing to, like, 30 to 50 to 100 people that wouldn't necessarily come to your show if you were headlining at the Fox or anywhere like that. It's just a opportunity to reach a new audience, and I think it's great.
Is it more intimidating to have like 10 people or to have like a full-on concert?
I think I don't know. I mean, I would say it's probably more intimidating the less people it is sometimes, like a big concert on a stage with monitors and everything is, it's very easy, I guess. I'm used to that, but when you get really stripped down and have to sort of tell stories and do things like that and talk a bunch more between songs, then it gets a bit, more intimate, and invariably you're sort of exposed more, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool format. So yeah, on a little bit happier note, because it's close to Halloween, I gotta ask, are you gonna dress up?
I was actually just out for dinner last night, and I was debating if I was going to dress up this year, and I was trying to think of what I could do as a costume, because there's a party on Saturday that I'm supposed to go to that's like a costume party, and I haven't had a chance because we've been on tour and I've been busy until the show is kind of over, as to what to wear or what to do, and I was just trying to brainstorm. And honestly, I wasn't sure. I was joking, and I don't know if it would be too un-PC, but I was like, I have a pair of white pants, and I was like, maybe I'll just, like, dress all in white and go and just call yourself a hipster ghost. Or I was like, is it too weird to say that if you dressed all in white and just wrote white privilege on yourself? Or is that, like, I don't know if that's like making fun of that or embracing. I don't know. I thought it could be too controversial to just write white privilege on a white t-shirt and dress all in white, but it's sort of a, current affairs,
I think you got to know your crowd.
Yes.
Yeah.
It could go either way. I'm trying to be fun and funny with it, but some people could actually take offense to that maybe. I don't know.
Good luck. Yeah, next question is, your name's Dan. How often do you get called Dan the Man?
Oh, I do get called Dan the Man quite often. And then my last name's Moxon, so a lot of people will call me Moxon or variations of that, or Mox1, or all sorts of weird.
Moccasin, ever get that?
I've been called Dan Moccasin before, yeah.
All right.
But yes, Dan the Man. Get it once in a while.
All right. My last question is, what's next for you?
So after this is my last show on the books for a little bit, but I am looking to book more opening spots and kind of whatever comes my way with the solo project. And I'm hoping that if the album's well received, I can do some sort of folk fest or jazz fest, or I'm going to apply for a bunch of stuff next summer. And then with Ben Sinister, we are also going to get back into the jam space and start working on a new record as well. So kind of between the two, I'll be, trucking along and busy, and might even just do a trip to South Africa as a little aside, and I'm also hoping to get into the Folk Alliance, which is in New Orleans this year. It's a festival, and if that came out, if that came through with the Music BC showcase, then I would probably go down there and spend a couple weeks in New Orleans, which I've always wanted to do.
Should be nice, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for chatting with me.
Yes. Thank you for coming.